Greetings, everyone. So today we're going to be discussing the American Revolution. So let's get into it. So in this first segment, we're going to be discussing the emergent cultures of the British American colonies. And so throughout the 18th century, colonists had developed significant emotional ties with both the British monarchy as well as the British Constitution. The colonists very much saw themselves as being subjects of Britain. So the 18th century brought significant economic as well as demographic growth to the colonies, and many colonists believed that this was because of the hands-off approach of Britain in terms of their lack of a role in infrastructure as well as economic affairs, right? And so this kind of leads us to some of the long-term origins of the American Revolution. So, by and large, Britain had failed to define the colony's relationship to the empire and failed to institute a real program of imperial reform. And so, largely, this was because Britain was, like, always at war. And also, as you have members of parliament as well as the crown having conflicting visions or ideas as to how the empire should go about conducting itself. But the colonists understood themselves to be kind of a separate body politic from Britain. And so this was largely because each colony created a colonial assembly, and these assemblies were responsible for taxing residents. They were also responsible for managing the spending of colonial revenue, and also they helped grant those salaries to royal officials, including governors. Many colonists saw their assemblies as having the same power over them as Parliament had over the people of England. And so we also see out of this, I'll say, negligence on the behalf of Britain, the development of political culture in the British North American colonies. And so in Britain, as well as the colonies, land was key in order to be able to be involved in politics. Land, unlike in Britain, was widely available in the colonies, so we see a larger portion of male colonists participating in politics than did in Britain. The political culture of the American colonies was heavily inspired by the ideology of republicanism, as well as the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. And so these ideological movements really inspired colonists to challenge their ideas and feelings about authority. And so you have people like John Locke, rendered left, who wrote Essay Concerning Human Understanding, in which he argued that individuals were formed primarily by their environment, and also that the aristocracy were wealthy or successful because they had greater access to wealth, education, and patronage, or financial support, financial backing, not because they were innately superior. I feel like this is something that many people are still arguing, unfortunately, and in this day, right? But that one's proximity to resources makes one better able to be successful, is basically what John Locke was saying in this time. And we also see the Consumer Revolution heavily influencing the British North American colonists, who were becoming anglicized through their ability to purchase British commodities. And by anglicized, we simply mean becoming more British in ideology and culture, right? And so with the growth of colonial economies, we see an increase in access to and participation in British culture. We see the vast majority of colonists identifying themselves as being British subjects, and proudly so. And they were particularly proud of being British, especially at the end of the 7 Years' War. So this really makes us think about, well, how did things begin to fall apart, right? And so a lot of this is connected to Britain being broke, right? So Britain was financially strained from the 7 Years' War, especially because this war took place on multiple continents. And so as a result of the 7 Years' War, the national debt of Britain doubled to 13.5 times its annual revenue, right? So it is in greater debt than the revenue it's bringing in each year, right? Including the colonies. And so also, because now Britain has expanded its reach in terms of the amount of land that it lays claim to, including now New France, including Florida, including India. It faced new costs of having to secure and defend its ever-expanding empire, right? Especially in the western frontiers of the North American colonies. And so the American Revolution results directly from the attempts to reform the British Empire after the 7 Years' War. I'm going to pause this here and stay tuned for part 2. Take care of yourselves.